You know what happens when a 3-star Admiral tells a sniper to hand over her rifle because she asked just a woman? Well, grab a brew and settle in. Because what happened next at that Afghan firebase is the kind of story that LL make your jaw hit the floor. I'm talking about a showdown that had Navy SEALs backing off, an entire task force holding their breath, and one Vice Admiral learning the most expensive lesson of his career. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll understand why you never, ever mess with a woman who can hit a target from over 2 kilometers away. Right, so picture this. Forward Operating Base Chapman, deep in the heart of Afghanistan's Khas province. The air is thick with diesel fumes and that gritty Afghan dust that gets absolutely everywhere. It's 2014, and sitting alone in a cramped briefing room is Staff Sergeant Katya Volkov, though everyone who matters calls her Viper. She's 28, about 5'6", and built like someone who spent years hauling heavy equipment across mountain ranges. At this moment, she is doing what snipers do when they've got a quiet moment. Meticulously cleaning her Barrett M107A1 50 cal sniper rifle with the kind of precision you'd expect from a heart surgeon. Now, before we go any further, if you're enjoying this story, do me a solid and smash that subscribe button. These stories about our veterans deserve to be heard. Whether you're watching from Manchester, Edinburgh, or anywhere else, our heroes call home. So, Katya wasn't just any soldier playing dress-up. This woman had 3 deployments under her belt and held the theater's long-range engagement record at 2,270 meters. That's nearly 2.5 kilometers, verified by 3 spotters. To put that in perspective, that's almost the length of 30 football pitches. She wasn't the only designated marksman in the room by accident. She'd earned that spot through pure skill and more confirmed kills than most operators rack up in their entire careers. But here's the thing about Katya's story that makes it even more remarkable. Her grandfather, Viktor Volkov, was a Soviet sniper who'd fought in Afghanistan back in the 80s during the Soviet-Afghan War. After immigrating to Montana in 1991, the old man bought himself a Remington 700 and decided his granddaughter needed to learn the family trade. By the time Katya was 12 years old, she could consistently nail prairie dogs at 500 yards. Her father, a Marine who'd served in Desert Storm, wasn't initially thrilled about his daughter wanting to join up. But after watching her absolutely demolish every member of his old unit at a reunion shooting competition, he drove her straight to the recruiter's office himself. The Army sniper course at Fort Benning nearly destroyed her. Not physically, mind you. She could tab with the best of them, no problem. But the instructors, they made her prove herself twice as hard as any bloke in the course. Every single shot had to be perfect. Every calculation double-checked. When she finally graduated with honors, even the commandant admitted she'd set multiple course records. Her motivation was dead simple. Precision saves lives. Every time she squeezed that trigger, it meant another soldier was coming home to their family. In Iraq, she'd provided overwatch for convoy movements, taking out threats before they could detonate. In Afghanistan, she'd once spent 14 hours lying in a hide site during a proper blizzard, waiting for one shot that would prevent an entire patrol from walking straight into an ambush. That 2,000-meter shot I mentioned earlier, that eliminated a Taliban commander who was literally minutes away from coordinating a complex attack. Verified, documented, and legendary among those who knew their stuff. Now, back to that morning at FOB Chapman. At 5 minutes to 8, the briefing room started filling up with the usual cast. Navy SEALs from Team 3, Army Rangers from 2nd Battalion, and Katya, representing 1st Special Forces Group. The testosterone and ego levels were climbing faster than the temperature outside. Then, at precisely 7:55, in walks Vice Admiral Marcus Brennan with his entire entourage, 3 commanders, 2 lieutenants, and enough metal ribbons on his chest to stock a habard. Brennan had insisted on attending this tactical briefing personally, despite his staff advising against it. 15 years behind a desk, but he was determined to prove he still understood field operations. The moment he walked in, his eyes locked onto Katya, more specifically, onto a rifle case. The Barrett was propped against the wall, its 50 caliber presence commanding respect from anyone who knew anything about long-range precision shooting. Here's where things get properly interesting. Brennan walks straight past the Rangers and SEALs, makes a beeline for Katya, and comes out with his absolute corker What? A little girl doing with such a big gun? Do you even know how to use it properly? I'm not joking. Those were his actual words. Master Sergeant Williams from the Rangers tried to jump in, explaining that Staff Sergeant Volkov literally held the distance. Record for confirmed engagements in the entire theater of operations. Brennan just waved him off like he was swatting a fly, declaring that this operation needed real shooters, not diversity quotas filling combat positions. Then he goes on about how he'd been shooting competitively since his days at an claiming he understood precision better than some enlisted soldier playing with equipment beyond our capability. Then, Then, he makes his first massive mistake. He reaches for her Barrett, announcing he's going to personally verify whether the weapon's even properly maintained. And here, as the critical bit, he grabs the rifle-less barrel and tries to yank it away from her. Now, for those of you who don't know, in the sniper community, touching another shooter's weapon without permission is about as sacred a rule as you can break. That rifle was zeroed specifically to her, adjusted for her eye relief, her breathing pattern, her trigger pull. It's like someone trying to nick a surgeon's scalpel mid-operation. Chief Petty Officer Jackson from SEAL Team 3 tried warning the Admiral, pointing out that Viper had provided overwatch on their last 3 operations. Brennan actually laughed. Proper belly laugh. Said he'd show everyone what real marksmanship looked like if she couldn't handle the pressure. Katia's hand stayed steady. But inside, she was thinking about every officer who'd ever questioned her presence. Every soldier who'd assumed she'd gotten her position through quotas rather than skill. She thought about that time in Iraq when she'd made a shot through a sandstorm that saved an entire medical convoy, only to have the after-action report credited to fortunate timing. She thought about Afghanistan, when she'd eliminated 6 Taliban fighters in 8 seconds during a complex ambush, and the briefing barely mentioned her contribution. She looked at the Admiral's hands. Soft. No calluses from ours on the rifle range. No dirt under those manicured nails from building hide sites. His ribbons included a bronze star without the V device. Meritorious service, not combat valor. Basically, a desk jockey playing soldier. Just as Brennan's grip tightened on the Barrett's barrel, pulling harder, everything changed. Specialist Murphy burst through the door with urgent intel. 6 Avalio targets had been spotted moving through the valley. A Taliban leadership meeting happening in 4 hours. The kind of opportunity that comes once a deployment, but they'd need absolutely precise overwatch to eliminate security positions without alerting the main group. Brennan immediately started outlining his plan, suggesting one of his staff officers could handle overwatch if this sergeant could perform under pressure. The lieutenant he indicated was maybe 25, had qualified marksman and basic training, nowhere near the level needed for what they were talking about. These positions required specific shots through narrow windows at varying distances, 800 to 1600 meters, with crosswinds through the valley approaching 15 miles per hour. Chief Jackson tried reasoning with him, but Brennan doubled down. That's when he made his second colossal mistake. He yanked the Barrett hard enough to pull Katia off balance. Her response was pure instinct. Army combatives. Level 3 training kicked in instantly. She twisted the rifle, using the Admiral's own momentum against him. Her left hand found his wrist, applying pressure to the median nerve while rotating. The joint lock, perfected through hundreds of hours of close-quarters combat training, was controlled enough not to cause permanent damage, but the crack was definitely audible. Brennan dropped to one knee, face white as a sheet. His security detail reached for their side. Every special operator in the room stood up. The standoff lasted 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours. Then Katia did something absolutely nobody expected. She helped Brennan to his feet, professionally, without emotion, and made him an offer that would go down in Firebase legend. "Give me 6 targets at maximum range," she said. "Any distance you choose, sir? If I miss even one, I'll accept any disciplinary action you want, including court-martial for striking a superior officer. But if I make all 6 shots, you let me run Overwatch for this mission without interference." Brennan, cradling his injured hand, agreed through gritted teeth. His pride wouldn't let him back down. Even wounded, they moved to the range behind the fob. Word spread faster than wildfire. Within minutes, 40 soldiers had gathered to watch what was about to go down. 6 targets were placed at 800, 1,000, 1,200, 1,400, 1,600, and 1,810 meters. That last one pushed the Barrett's maximum effective range in those conditions. Katya didn't rush. She checked wind patterns, calculated bullet drop, factored in air density at elevation for extreme distances beyond 1,500 meters. She even had to account for the Coriolis effect, that's the Earth's rotation affecting bullet trajectory. Proper, advanced mathematics. The Barrett's weight settled into her shoulder like an old friend. First shot. 800 meters. Centimass. Ding. Second shot. 1,000 meters. Perfect hit, despite a sudden gust. Ding. Third shot. 1,200 meters. Adjusted for mirage effect. Dead center. Ding. Fourth shot. 1,400 meters. Through a crosswind that would have sent most bullets wide. Ting? "1,600 meters. The bullet took over 2 seconds to impact. Headshot. Ding. The final target waited 1,810 meters. She waited for the wind to speak, reading patterns in the dust like her grandfather taught her. The trigger broke clean. 3 seconds of flight time. The steel target rang like a church bell. Ding. Admiral Brennan stood silent for 30 seconds, his injured hand wrapped by a corpsman. Then he did something that shocked absolutely everyone. He saluted her with his left hand, because his right was knackered. Not required for enlisted personnel, but the gesture meant everything. He apologized publicly, admitted he'd let prejudice override judgment, said he'd been in the Navy 30 years and never seen shooting like that. Then he formally asked if Staff Sergeant Volkov would provide overwatch for the operation. The mission went flawlessly. Katya eliminated 8 security positions without detection, enabling the task force to capture all 6 Hivelu targets. Her longest confirmed engagement that day was 1,987 meters through a doorway barely 2 feet wide. The intelligence gathered prevented 3 planned attacks on coalition forces. For her actions during the Operation Ott, the demonstration, but the actual mission, Brennan submitted her for a Silver Star citation. More importantly, he returned to Norfolk with a completely different perspective, pushing for merit-based assessments in joint operations throughout the Navy. 3 months later, Katya received orders to Fort Bragg as an instructor at the Special Operations Target Interdiction course. She became the first female instructor in the Advanced Sniper program. Her grandfather lived long enough to see the ceremony, passing 2 weeks later with her Silver Star citation on his bedside table, right next to his old Soviet medals. The rifle. She still has it. Look, this story isn't just about a woman proving herself to a pompous admiral, though that's certainly satisfying. It's about the reality that skill, precision, and dedication have absolutely nothing to do with what's between your legs and everything to do with what's between your ears and in your heart. Katya Volkov earned her place through blood, sweat, and thousands of hours of training. She saved lives because she was the best person for the job. Full stop. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think differently about what our service members go through, do me a favor and hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe, because there are more stories like this that deserve to be told. Stories about the men and women who put their lives on the line, who face prejudice and doubt, and who prove through their actions that excellence knows no boundaries. Stay safe out there, and remember, never judge a book by its cover. And definitely never try to take a sniper's rifle. Cheers.